I'm here with Dan Osborne. I called Osman for years. Dan Osborne, who is an incredible painter here in Salt Lake City. We both today tried to figure out how we met each other. And somebody fabulous must have introduced us, and I don't remember who it was. Neither of us remembers. So, but we figure we've been working together for 5 or 6 years now. He's done a ton of property for me on residential properties here in town, and I've referred him out to a lot of clients. He even recently helped some clients who were having a epic with some wallpaper, I think, and he went in there and kind of saved the day for them. They couldn't find anyone who would show up to do the job. So I'm always like super appreciative, Dan, of you kind of stepping in and taking on those jobs that probably aren't your favorite either. So
no, you got to keep people happy.
Yeah, exactly.
You especially.
Yeah, so welcome. We're doing it a little bit different today. We usually do an Instagram Live, but they took away that feature. So we're learning how to do this interview on Google Meet. So thanks for sticking with me today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you give us a little bit of background? I actually don't really know much about you as a human, like where you grew up or how you got your business started, anything.
Yeah. Okay. I grew up in Sandy, which is probably 10, 12 miles from where I live now in West Jordan. Started looking for a job just from job to jobs at certain points in your young life and figuring out what's best for you, and went through a lot of different trades, whether it was roofing, concrete, construction itself. Ended up being a painter's helper. Loved to paint. It was really cool. I could do a little bit of the body work and stuff and get them ready, but then the painter kind of let me take control on some small items, and turned out to be something I enjoyed so much. I continued with the business. I got out of that because it was a lot of hazardous material. And so in 2000, I created my own business, and which is Painter's Edge, and continued from that point on, and just loving every minute of it to make people happy, I guess.
That's so cool. Yeah, I always got the impression that you actually liked it. You know, I think there are a lot of people in trades that kind of do the trades because that's their job, and that's fine too. We got to have guys to do the job. But I always, in talking to you about different projects, always got the impression that you kind of enjoyed it. What do you enjoy about painting?
Oh, it's pretty obvious to me, I guess. But so the grinding part, getting the job done is not the funnest, for sure. I mean, it can be, but you're kind of going over some people's stuff that is like so off the wall. Like, what were you thinking? What were you doing? And a lot of cleanup work. And, whether it's, I call them boogers on the wall, and then there's runs and stuff like that. So cleaning up all that stuff, sheetrock repair, that's nothing. But when it comes down to it is you get to that final stage of everything unmasked, the tarps are off the floor, and you kind of stand back and you look at what you've accomplished from when you walked in. Kind of a not so good situation in some cases and really bad situations in others. But as far as seeing that final product of what you accomplished to do is just, and then to have the customer or the client be overwhelmed themselves and just think it looks fantastic, kind of exactly what they were looking for. I don't know. I don't think there's a better feeling as far as accomplishing something like that when, your client agrees with you and they're very happy, and you walk away and you feel good about the job.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love that. The boogers on the wall cracks me up.
It's just figure of speech, not literally.
Well, you never know. In a kid's room, you've seen some boogers.
You don't go there, but
Yeah.
You do find them.
I'm sure. Do you specialize in a particular type of painting? Like, obviously for me, you've done residential, but I don't know, do you do outside of houses or inside, or like,
Yep.
do you specialize?
Residential, commercial, inside, outside. What I prefer is refurbishing cabinets, whether it be vanities, hand railing, whether it be kitchen cabinets. They're my favorite. On my Instagram pictures, I have a few different pictures of cabinets that I've done on there, and they all kind of somewhat run together in a way, because a lot of people are looking for either white or a light gray. Mm-hmm. So I don't do a whole lot of pictures on there of more than a few, just for the fact it doesn't really mean much. They can see. There's one in particular that was an olive drab green that I did, and I thought the guy was crazy, and I tried to talk him out of it, and dude, you better go gray. And he stuck with the color. And when I was done with that, I couldn't believe how
Yeah.
awesome these cabinets look being green. And so that was just an inspiration for me, as far as like, don't always think that you're right or try and help somebody go a different direction. So I am like kind of rolling with somebody might want and just give suggestions as to what might be best.
Well, you're speaking my language. I am a sucker for colorful kitchens. Like I'm building a ADU right now, and my contractor, I had told him from the start, I'm not going to be living in the house. And I said, listen, I know that I've got funny taste and, eclectic. But when it came to the cabinets, I went, they got to have color. I can't do a gray or a white cabinet. And he's like, well, it's just a rental. And I'm like, sorry, it's got to be a color cabinet. And at another house of mine, I picked this. I wish I had an example, like a really rich teal color. And everybody was like, I don't know about that, but I'll tell you, there's not a single person that walks in there that doesn't compliment it. I love a colorful cabinet. So
it's so funny how you bring that up, because I painted a teal island in a kitchen, brand new ivory home, and painted the island itself teal.
Yeah.
Matched their fireplace. So they had some teal going around their fireplace, and they had that same color. And so I did that. And so with the white cabinets in the background, and then you had the teal in front in the island, because kind of a corner set kitchen. The island was kind of 45 from where you were looking from the TV and the fireplace. It just popped. It looked so good.
Yeah.
It almost makes you want to paint all the cabinets that color in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that pop of color. My kitchen it's very like kind of a, I don't know, grayish brown. And when I moved in, I thought, oh, I'm going to have like a very cool, chic, very minimalist kitchen. I'm incapable of that. And I put wallpaper actually on the kitchen island, like a really patterned wallpaper, just to add a pop of color in there. I was like, I can't do it with the grays. So I'm glad you're getting some color in your work there.
Right, for sure. Yeah, it's always fun. I mean, you go uptown avenues, or even I did this apartment, which was mind blowing. It was for a company, so they kind of used it as need be. When they had clients come into town, they could stay there. And every room was either a really, say, dark green. One was orange. There's some purple rooms. There was 2 bedrooms that were purple. Orange. There was orange down in the main kitchen area. The cabinets were all made and kind of somewhat looked like wood grain, but updated, contemporary kind of look. This place was crazy. Some of the paints that I had to use ended up being 6 coats to get it to cover. And
wow.
Even when I noticed what was happening, I went with a gray primer and then tried to cover it with a gray primer, and you could still see shadowing. It was highly transparent colors that are so like popular, like that, kind of what you're saying, what you like, a lot of color. And it was color from one end to the other. But in reality, people's taste, it turned out really cool. It would be like a cool kind of a party house or condo is what it was.
Yeah. I was like, to be fair, I have seen the color thing taken way too far. And it's tough with paint, like there was a trend a few years ago, and people might still be doing it, so no hate on those that are doing it, but a black accent wall was a big trend. And, I was like, it looks cool. It does. But man, to cover that up when you're tired of it, even if you put in 4 coats of primer, and if you don't do it just right, say you have a textured ceiling and then a kind of smooth wall, and you get the little black coming up around the edges, like I can't with that.
Yeah.
That's one where you're like, if you're going to do an accent wall, you either buy the most expensive tape you can muster or just hire a professional to make sure those lines are tight,
Oh, there's nothing better than a nice, straight, tight line. And that's kind of why I named the business is what the name is Painter's Edge. I was looking for kind of like the so sharp of a razor kind of a name in a way. And I figured Painter's Edge is having the edge over all other painters, because I pride myself on having the sharpest, straightest lines.
Yeah.
And I think that just makes a room just look so much crisper, cleaner, professional. And even caulking, holes and cracks and stuff like that just doesn't fly with.
Yeah.
You're right. Keep it right and tight.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like that. So I like what you were saying earlier about, like, again, not to keep drilling on the boogers thing. But you go into a house and it's a mess. People, my favorite is the boomers when they painted over the wallpaper. So you go to like repaint and you see the edge, they painted over the wallpaper. So, when a first time home buyer buys a house, they always think they can do everything. And they can,
Sure.
DIY, like I'm about
As
it.
if you wanted to look.
Yeah, like, get that elbow grease going. But, what is your suggestion for people? Like, at what point it's like, yeah, go ahead and DIY the paint job? Or at what point should you be like, you should be hiring up a professional? Let's start with that question.
That's kind of a tough one in a way, because usually when somebody thinks that they can paint their house, it's pretty much, a big project in a way, but it's an easier project that they can handle. So they take on that task. I've found that to be a problem with people that do a basement or something that's raw sheetrock, and they got to prime it and they got to two coat everything. It's easier to a pre-painted house is to, put a couple coats of paint over something. That the baseboards are done, the doors are done. It's pretty easy to change the color on the walls. I guess when it comes down to it is how good they want it to look, honestly, because I've seen some people that do some good painting on their own. And it's because they've done it for quite a few years. And it's not the easiest thing to do to make everything look good, but to make it look professional and like it should, definitely, I guess, is that point where, can I make it look this good as somebody else could, being professional? Or can I make it look good enough that I'll be satisfied and everybody that comes into my home will think it looks great too, I guess. That is a tough question for sure.
I think you answered it well, though, because, say if you're going, like my house is this kind of beige color. Like if I were going for another kind of white or beige, my mistakes aren't going to show up as much. But if this room was painted blue and I wanted it to be white, my mistakes are going to be glaring. Like, and the exhaustion of like putting on, for me, if I have to put on more than 2 coats of primer, I'm out. I can't.
Yeah.
It's, you get that second coat on and you look and you realize you have to put a third and you're like,
I had that same problem with your duplex. It doesn't, when it really comes down to it, where I ended up having to do 3 coats, some in some places there were 4. It all depends on how much the roller drags off as you roll it on there. That's really the biggest problem. The brusher and the roller can keep pulling it back off, and that darker color keeps pulling back through.
Yeah.
It's kind of a knack of finding which way to roll the roller the opposite direction and see what transpires. And sometimes it'll cover it up a little bit better, and then you just leave it. And once it dries, it creates more of a barrier than going the other direction with the roller. So
interesting.
Kind of those things that you learn as you go and do that kind of thing. But
is that a sheen issue? Like, was that base layer like a higher sheen so it doesn't stick as well? Is that a thing? Or
no, it's as far as being the 3 coats.
Yeah, like when you, because I know what you mean.
It probably hinder you a little bit for sure. Like as opposed to say a flat or an eggshell, as opposed to a gloss or a semi-gloss,
right.
It does make it slipperier.
Yeah.
And so for sure, I think what you're saying is, yeah, when you go a certain direction or your roller isn't rolling, and sometimes they'll slide instead of roll, then it tears a lot of the fresh paint that you put on there, and that could definitely be because of the semi-gloss or the gloss.
But we upped the sheen in that particular case, so it couldn't, because we ended up putting something a bit shinier on than the old one. Now I'm like thinking about the duplex.
Yeah, I think we went satin on that, just for protection, because of say they had kids, which it's pretty big, so I think it's going to be family of some kind.
Yeah.
But that's better cleaning. Anything from satin up is a lot better cleaning surface. The shinier you go, the easier it's going to be to clean.
Yeah. So, well, maybe we can summarize it with, hire a painter if you want it to look really good, then hire a painter. And if you're going big color changes or big sheen changes, might be good to hire a painter. If you're just trying to cover up a white wall with more white, you can probably get away with DIYing it. But anything kind of big change, then maybe the best bet is to hire a painter. Is that like a good summary?
For sure. Depending on, yeah, exactly. If you kind of look back, you say somebody's got a project and you're looking at it and you kind of think that it might be out of your realm, probably right. Because say you're going a drastic color, most of them they'll run into a problem and then they got to hire a painter and to get it done right. So if, simple stuff, that's great. A little more complicated, I think I'd give somebody a call.
Yeah. Okay. And how can they best prepare rare for a painter? Like when you walk into a house, short of it being completely empty and covered in tarps, like
Yeah.
what's the best way that somebody can really prepare to have a painter in their space?
Yeah, the best scenario would be moving the larger furniture to the center of the room.
Hmm.
Stuff that you can actually work around the walls. Mainly, if I have to get to the ceiling, I would have plastic over all that, obviously, in the first place, and then be able to roll the ceiling from side to side. So it gives you access to the ceiling with an extension pole. And so it's mainly just some room to probably 3 to 4 feet from the walls, if possible.
Hmm.
To be able to roll out the walls or paint the baseboards or what have you, doors. And then I guess another thing might be as to what, say, picture attachments or clock attachments on the wall that they might want to keep. If they went through and put a piece of tape on the ones they want to keep, then I know which ones I need to patch.
Oh, smart. Okay.
Usually just go through on my own. I don't even ask. I just go through and patch everything.
Yeah.
Just automatic for me. But sometimes people want to keep them if they're in a stud, so you know where the stud is. You don't have to find it again, which is pretty easy. But still, you want to put it back, the picture that they took off for the clock, then we'll just keep it there just for the fact they put a piece of tape on it. That's
Right.
helpful.
What about curtains, drapes, and blinds?
Definitely a benefit, something I'm used to taking care of.
Hmm.
Sometimes blinds can be a pain even for me to figure out these new ones on how to take them apart and get them out of the way. Curtains are easy. If that'd be greatly appreciated if somebody would do that, that would be helpful. Not a huge deal. And then because I would take the brackets off the wall, which I wouldn't expect them to do either, but just so they don't get any paint on them.
Yeah.
Having the curtain rod and the curtains out of the way and having a secure place for them, that'd be great.
Yeah, I was kind of asking because I've thought a few times about having you do my bedroom, but I've got blinds and curtains and all that stuff. And I'm like, because I should do it myself. It's just a bedroom, and I go, I don't want to move all that stuff because the ceilings are really tall.
Yeah, right. That's another thing too. When you start seeing tall ceilings, people don't really until they get right into it as far as realizing how tall it really is when you get off the ground and you're not used to it on a ladder.
Yeah.
And it can get a little scary for people sometimes. So that's something else to consider.
If it's a tall ceiling. Yeah. And I've done enough painting to know that even though it's only a bedroom, I've got zero interest in painting myself, but I do want it painted, so we might end up calling you about that one.
Sounds good. I don't mind taking blinds down and moving curtains around.
I might make you do those.
The house cleaning is what gets old sometimes.
What's that?
The house cleaning gets out of control sometimes. Like, you run into a lot of cobwebs and dust and things that people, I guess, don't think about. Everybody's so busy these days, especially me or even me. But the time to clean some of the stuff up, sometimes the splatters from food, or that's always helpful too, because that stuff will bleed through paint.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know up until, it was during COVID years. I was on TikTok and there was a cleaner woman on there, and she would go through like all the things in your house that you ought to be cleaning, and I was mortified at how many of those things I never knew to be doing. And one, she was like, once or twice a year I clean all my walls. She takes like a whole mop with spray and cleans all the walls. And if you go up to any given wall, you'll find dust all over it, and so I'm sure as a painter, you're having to clean walls all the time.
It's huge. Yeah, you either got to blow them off with the vacuum if they're kind of dusty with a brush on it, so it kind of scrubs the wall.
Yeah.
And then there's so many different chemicals that get on the wall, whether you're in a bathroom, whether it's hairspray, or oils from the shower. They evaporate in the steam and then they collect on the ceiling and the walls, and that's great. What creates those colors you see drips on the ceiling or something, or golden or whatever. It's the shampoos, oils and stuff that you use, and that gets on the walls. And then there's cooking in the kitchen, from the grease, whether it's bacon, hamburgers, fish, whatever, it goes out in steam or smoke, and it collects on everything in the kitchen area. So
somebody could start a really good business that was just like a painter cleaning service, where they could go to all the painters in town and be like, hey, before you start painting, I'll clean it for this amount, so you can work that into your own bid, so you don't have to be the cleaning lady before. You can just go in and paint.
Right.
That'd be a good business idea, probably.
For sure. Yeah, that could be a thing.
Yeah, just wall scrubber people.
Yeah.
Anybody, there's a business idea for you. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, any kind of final thoughts or words of wisdom for folks in regards to painting? Anything we missed here, you think?
It's
I always like if there's like a funny story too.
I don't know about a funny story or not. Everyone knows. Well, no, I do, but don't want to admit it. A good tip if anybody's trying to cover up really dark stuff and they're trying to go light, there's something you can get as far as some primer at Sherwin-Williams. It'd be hide white. So it's an additive they put in the primer in itself. It's more of a solid and should almost cover up in the first coat any dark color to go a lighter color. But I do suggest doing 2 coats of paint. Even though you do a coat of primer and you might be able to get away with 1 coat of paint, it's not a very good barrier as far as sheen wise. If you had any patches on the wall, they'll bleed through and be a kind of a dull blotchy patch in the middle of the wall because it's not securely covered the surface. And so I still suggest at least 2 coats of paint over primer. And that's 3 coats, which stinks, but when you're about a dark wall, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, for those folks that did the black accent walls back in the day.
Yeah, or red. I've had a real problem covering up red.
I guess one final question. If people are going to do an accent wall, what is the best kind of darker color that would cover up the easiest? Like, do blues or greens? It sounds like reds are really difficult. Like, out of the kind of color spectrum, which ones do cover easier?
You know, I think they're all pretty much in their own category once they're pretty dark. After, say, a medium, it's pretty much a 3-coat call every time. And hopefully you can get it done in 3 coats. But if you just use a regular primer, you know, that might not cut it. Might on the first coat, that hide white primer, it's such a solid that it'll cover it up good enough between 2 coats of paint. You won't have no problem at all.
Cool. That's a really good tip. It'll save them from doing the 3 or 4 coats of primer that I've done in the past to cover up the paint jobs.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dan, I really appreciate you coming on here and also figuring it out with me since we couldn't have the Instagram live tonight. But I appreciate
Thanks for having me.
And anybody, if you are looking to have anything painted, reach out to me. I can give you Dan's number. You can follow him on Instagram. I'll link him or whatever on here. And he's
offering 15% off right now to the first of the year. A little bit slow this time because of exterior paint. Really is not happening this time of the year. It's really cold outside now, and so I'm taking 15% off of any painting bid at this time until the end of the year.
Maybe I'll come and have you bid the bedroom.
Awesome.
All right, cool. Thanks so much, Dan. I appreciate it.